Have you ever felt like your emotions are running the show, dragging you from peace to frustration, calm to chaos without warning? You're not alone. Most people think power means being louder, stronger, faster. But what if the strongest person in the room is the one who stays centered when everything else is spinning? That's where Stoic philosophy begins. Not in force, but in mastery. Not in hiding emotion, but in transforming it. Because the Stoics weren't cold. They weren't disconnected. They were grounded. At its heart, Stoicism isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about holding space between the feeling and the reaction, creating room for reason, wisdom, and choice. Imagine waking up tomorrow and knowing that no matter what life throws at you, traffic, arguments, bad news, uncertainty, you have the inner stability to meet it with grace. Not because you're pretending it doesn't hurt, but because you've built a quiet strength that can carry it. That's what this video is all about. Today, I want to walk you through 12 Stoic principles that can completely reshape the way you respond to life. These aren't just ideas, they're tools, habits of thought, anchors for when the emotional waves hit. They've helped people like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus remain calm in the face of war, exile, betrayal, and they can help you navigate modern life with that same quiet resilience. These principles are not loud. They're not flashy. You won't see them trending on social media, but when practiced daily, they slowly rewire your mind. They strengthen your ability to pause before reacting. They help you shift from emotional chaos to clarity. They train your nervous system to find stillness even when the world gets noisy. And here's the best part. This kind of strength doesn't require you to become someone else. It invites you to return to who you've always been beneath the noise. Calm, focused, grounded. So whether you're navigating a tough relationship, building a dream, healing from the past, or simply looking for more peace in the everyday, these Stoic ways are here for you. Not as rules, but as reminders. Not as pressure, but as presence. Take a deep breath, and let's begin the journey inward, toward the silent strength that's already within you. 1. Master the first reaction. Let me ask you something. When something triggers you, someone says something rude, a plan falls apart, or life throws an unexpected curve, what's your very first reaction? Most of us react instantly. We flinch, we snap, we defend. It's natural, it's human, it's fast. But here's the problem. That first impulse, that unfiltered emotional spark, is often the least wise version of ourselves. And if we follow it blindly, it can damage relationships, derail progress, or trap us in regret. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful shift. Don't trust the first reaction. Train it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What he's pointing to is the space between the stimulus and your response, that sacred pause. That's where your freedom lives. You can't control the world. You can't control other people, but you can control how you meet what comes. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your pulse rises. You want to yell. But what if you simply paused? That pause doesn't mean weakness. It's not passivity. It's a form of mental strength. Because when you learn to delay your reaction, even just for a few seconds, you reclaim your power. You shift from reactive mode to responsive mode, and in that moment, you open the door to a better choice. Let's bring this closer to daily life. Think about that email that frustrated you, that offhand comment from a friend, that disappointment that stung. How different might things have turned out if you had waited, breathed, and responded from clarity instead of heat? The Stoics practice this every day. They didn't aim to become emotionless robots. They aimed to become masters of emotion, not slaves to it. So how do you build this pause? Start by noticing your triggers. What events or people tend to pull you off center? When you feel that surge, pause, count to 3, breathe deep, and ask yourself, is this who I want to be in this moment? That question alone can change your entire trajectory. This is not about perfection. You will slip. We all do. But every time you resist the first reaction, you're rewiring your mind. You're strengthening the muscle of wisdom. It's like emotional weightlifting. Every pause is a rep. Every thoughtful response is growth. So today, make this your quiet practice. Master the first reaction, not with force, but with awareness. Not to suppress your emotions, but to own them. Because true inner power isn't loud. It's calm, it's deliberate, and it begins in the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. 2. Don't chase validation. Let me ask you something real. How much of what you do each day is driven by the need to be seen? Think about it. How often do we post something, say something, or even become something just to hear someone else say, "Good job. You're amazing. I'm proud of you." And sure, validation feels good. It gives us that little dopamine hit, that momentary high. But here's the trap. The more you chase validation, the more you lose touch with your true self. The Stoics knew this long before Instagram, likes, or status updates. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world at the time, wrote private journals not for praise but for clarity, not to impress others but to sharpen his own soul. He wasn't chasing applause. He was chasing truth. He knew that external approval is fleeting. One day you're praised, the next day you're criticized. If your self-worth depends on those ups and downs, you become like a ship tossed by the waves, directionless. But when you stop chasing validation, something powerful happens. You start creating, acting, and speaking from a place of purpose, not performance. Let's make it real for a moment. Imagine you're working hard on a project, maybe a business, maybe a personal goal. You pour your heart into it, but then no one notices. No compliments, no likes, no well done. Would you still do it? That question reveals everything. If the answer is yes, that's your North Star. That's purpose. If the answer is no, it might be time to realign. Because here's the truth. Greatness isn't always recognized right away. Sometimes the most meaningful work is invisible to others, but it's not invisible to you. And that's what Stoicism teaches us. You are not here to impress. You are here to live with integrity, to do the right thing, even when no one claps for it. So what can you do? Start small. Notice when you're seeking approval. Catch yourself in the act. Ask, would I still do this if no one ever saw it? And if the answer is yes, keep going. Build your foundation on inner praise, on self-respect, on quiet conviction. Validation from others is nice, but it's not nourishment. It's dessert. What truly feeds you is the sense that you're aligned with who you are and what you value. Let that be enough, because in a world that teaches you to perform for applause, choosing to act from purpose is an act of rebellion and a deep kind of freedom. 3. Turn pain into fuel. Let's talk about something we all face: pain. Not just the big moments of heartbreak or loss, but the small frustrations too. The setbacks, the disappointments, the days when nothing seems to go your way. Now, most of us are taught to run from pain, to avoid it, to numb it. But the Stoics, they saw it differently. To them, pain wasn't punishment, it was potential. Not something to fear, but something to work with. Seneca, One of the great Stoic minds once said, just as fire tests gold, adversity tests the strong. And that's the key right there. Pain, like fire, has the power to refine you. Think about it. When life gets hard, when things break, when plans fall apart, that's when your real character is revealed. But even more importantly, that's when your new self can be built. Let me give you a visual. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The raw metal doesn't become strong by staying cool and untouched. It's heated, hammered, shaped, over and over again. And what comes out of that fire isn't weakness. It's strength. Sharp, resilient, unbreakable. That's what adversity can do for you, if you let it. The question isn't, why am I in pain? The real question is, what is this pain here to teach me? Maybe that heartbreak is teaching you to value boundaries. Maybe that failure is pointing out where you were out of alignment. Maybe that delay is saving you from something not meant for you. You see, pain holds information. It strips away illusions. It demands honesty. And if you're willing to sit with it, not rush past it, it can guide you towards something deeper, transformation. But here's the challenge. That process is not always obvious. Growth rarely announces itself with trumpets. It happens quietly, in the small choices you make while you're hurting. So next time you find yourself asking, why is this happening to me? Shift the question. Try asking, what part of me is being refined through this? That simple reframing can change everything. Suddenly, the setback becomes fuel. The loss becomes insight. The fire becomes a forge, not a funeral. This is the Stoic way, not to avoid pain, not to pretend it doesn't hurt, but to use it, to grow through it, to walk out of the fire more focused, more grounded, more awake. Because here's a truth worth remembering. The strongest people you know didn't escape pain. They learned how to carry it with wisdom, and so can you. 4. Own nothing, attached to nothing. Here's a question that might challenge you. What do you truly own? Your job? Your home? Your success? Even your relationships? The Stoics would say, none of it. And that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to free you. Because the moment we realize that everything in life is borrowed, not possessed, something powerful happens. We begin to let go, not out of carelessness, but out of clarity. You see, detachment isn't about not loving. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about loving without gripping. It's about appreciating without needing to possess. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that his status, his family, even his own body were temporary. He called it what it was, a loan from the universe. And when you view life this way, something shifts. The fear of losing begins to fade. The need to control starts to loosen its grip. Imagine holding sand in your palm. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, it rests there, calmly. Life is like that. When you cling to outcomes, when you must have that promotion or that person or that sense of control, your peace becomes fragile. Your happiness becomes conditional. But when you step back and say, this is not mine and that's okay, you reclaim something rare, emotional freedom. And that freedom doesn't make you less committed. It makes you stronger. Because you're no longer acting from fear. You're no longer owned by what you think you own. Detachment gives you space. Space to respond instead of react. Space to grieve loss without being consumed by it. Space to love fully without fear of change. Think of the sun. It shines without demanding anything in return. It doesn't cling to the sky or fear the coming night. It simply gives freely, fully, and then lets go. That's the kind of presence Stoicism invites us into, to live each moment fully while knowing we don't control the next, to give our best to people and goals while understanding they're not ours to keep. So the next time you feel the anxiety of holding on too tight, ask yourself, if this were taken from me tomorrow, could I still be at peace? That's not an easy question, but it's an empowering one. Because when you own nothing, you fear nothing. And when you attach to nothing, you become open to everything. True strength isn't about grabbing tighter. It's about knowing when to release. And from that release comes peace. 5. Choose response over reaction. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and immediately regretted it? We all have. Because when emotions take the wheel, we often crash into consequences we didn't intend. That's why the Stoics taught one of the most transformative disciplines: to pause, to create a moment, a gap between what happens to you and what you choose to do next. Think about that. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies your power. Most people live on autopilot. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they explode. They get criticized at work, they shut down or lash out. They hear bad news and spiral into fear or frustration. That's not response. That's programming. It's like a script written by someone else. Your past, your habits, your wounds. But here's the Stoic truth. You are not your first impulse. You are what comes after. When you pause, even for just a breath, you take back the pen. You stop reacting and you start choosing. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He ruled an empire, yet constantly reminded himself not to be ruled by his emotions. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let that sink in. You may not control what life throws at you, but you always control how you interpret it. And that's where reframing becomes your secret weapon. For example, you don't have to see a delay as a nuisance. It can be a moment for reflection. You don't have to see rejection as failure. It can be redirection. You don't have to see criticism as insult. It can be a mirror. This shift from reaction to reflection is how you build silent strength. It's not flashy, it won't make headlines, but it creates emotional armor that no one else can break through. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. At first, the pause may feel awkward, forced, unnatural, but over time, it becomes a sacred space, a quiet place where you return to your values, not your emotions. So the next time life provokes you, pause, take one breath, ask yourself, what would the wisest version of me do right now? That's where growth lives. Not in reacting faster, but in responding better. Not in silencing your emotions, but in learning to speak through them with intention. Because your response is your reputation. Your response is your power. And in the end, your response becomes your legacy. 6. Say less, mean more. Let's be honest. How often do we speak just to fill silence? We rush to reply. We over-explain. We try to prove, persuade, impress. But here's a quiet truth the Stoics knew well. Real strength doesn't need to shout. In fact, it often chooses to stay silent. There's a certain power in restraint, not the kind that represses, but the kind that refines. Because silence, when practiced with intention, isn't emptiness, it's discipline. Seneca once said, "Speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so is he." But even more revealing than what you say is what you choose not to say. Think about the people you truly admire. Are they the loudest in the room? or the ones who speak with clarity, depth, and weight, where every word seems to matter? Stoic philosophy encourages us to treat words like gold, precious, measured, and purposeful. Not every moment needs our opinion. Not every debate needs our defense. And not every silence needs to be filled. Sometimes the most powerful response is a pause. Sometimes the wisest thing you can say is nothing. But this isn't about passive withdrawal. It's about presence. When you speak less, you listen more, you observe more, and you allow your thoughts to mature before they're released into the world. In a noisy age where everyone has a platform, a hot take, a comment section, what if you became known as someone who speaks only when it truly matters? Imagine the impact of that. When you stop throwing words around carelessly, your voice starts to carry weight. Your silence becomes intriguing, not empty, but intentional. And when you do speak, people listen because they know it means something. This is how you build silent authority, not by dominating conversations, but by respecting them, not by saying more, but by meaning more. And here's something else. When you speak less, you give yourself space to choose better words, words that heal instead of harm, words that guide instead of confuse, words that reveal wisdom, not ego. So next time you're tempted to jump in, to argue, explain, justify, or fill the gap, pause. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And does it add value or just add noise? Because in the end, you're not remembered for how much you spoke. You're remembered for the meaning you brought to the moments that mattered. Say less, mean more. That's the Stoic way. And it might just be the most powerful voice you'll ever use. 7. Focus only on what you can control. Let's take a moment and ask a simple but powerful question. How much of what stresses you out is actually within your control? The Stoics had a name for this distinction, the dichotomy of control, and it changes everything. They taught that life becomes clearer, calmer, and more empowered the moment we learn to separate what we can control from what we cannot. Seems obvious, right? But how often do we forget this in real life? We worry about how others see us. We agonize over outcomes we can't predict. We replay conversations in our heads, wishing we said something different. We try to bend life to our will, as if the universe owes us a smooth ride. But here's the thing. The more energy you pour into things beyond your control, the more powerless you feel. It's like trying to row a boat upstream with broken oars, exhausting, frustrating, and ultimately pointless. Now imagine what would happen if you redirected that same energy inward. What if you focused on your actions, your attitude, your decisions, your inner world? Because that's where your real power lives. You can't control the weather, but you can choose how you dress for it. You can't control traffic, but you can control how you respond when you're stuck in it. You can't control people's behavior, but you can control your boundaries, your reactions, your peace. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, ruled over a vast and often chaotic empire. And yet, night after night, he reminded himself of one timeless truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just poetic. That's practical. Think of how much mental freedom you gain when you stop fighting things you were never meant to fix. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need the world to bend to your expectations to feel at peace. Peace isn't found in control, it's found in clarity. The clarity to say, this is mine to manage, and this is not. When you live from that mindset, you become unshakable. Storms may come, but they won't move you because you've anchored yourself in something stronger than circumstances, your character. So next time you feel overwhelmed or pulled in too many directions, pause. Ask yourself, is this something within my control? If it is, take action. If it's not, let it go. Either way, you win. Because the moment you stop giving your energy to what you can't control, you start building the life you actually can. And that, my friend, is Stoic freedom. 8. Practice voluntary discomfort. Here's a strange but powerful question. When was the last time you did something uncomfortable? On purpose? In a world built around convenience, we're trained to avoid discomfort at all costs. We have climate control at our fingertips, food delivered in minutes, and entertainment ready at the scroll of a finger. And while this makes life easier, it doesn't always make us stronger. The Stoics understood something we've almost forgotten. Comfort can weaken the spirit if we don't challenge it. That's why they practiced something radical: voluntary discomfort. They didn't wait for hard times to come knocking. They sought out small, controlled challenges to sharpen their resilience on their terms. Seneca, one of the wealthiest philosophers of his time, would periodically dress in rags, eat the simplest food, and sleep on the floor. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to remind himself, is this what I feared? By confronting discomfort voluntarily, he reduced its power over him. It's a powerful shift. When you deliberately do what's hard, you transform fear into familiarity, and that's where real strength is born. Think about it. A cold shower in the morning isn't just a shock to the body. It's a training ground for your mind. Fasting for a day isn't just about discipline. It's about discovering you're not ruled by every craving. Doing something uncomfortable, like saying no, speaking your truth, or walking away from comfort, builds the emotional calluses you'll need when life tests you for real. And life will test you. Because here's the thing, discomfort is coming either way. The only question is, do you train for it, or do you let it break you? Voluntary discomfort doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't have to live in a cave or sleep on stone floors, but you can choose to walk instead of drive. You can choose to speak up in a room that intimidates you. You can choose to sit with your thoughts for 10 minutes a day instead of numbing them with noise. Each small act of chosen difficulty is like lifting a weight. You might not notice the strength it gives you right away, but over time, you'll find yourself standing taller in your mind, your choices, your life. The Stoics weren't obsessed with pain. They simply knew that if you avoid discomfort completely, you'll end up avoiding growth. And if you can choose discomfort today, you'll be better prepared for the discomfort life throws at you tomorrow. So ask yourself, what's one small thing you could do this week? Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Do that, and do it often. Because every time you step willingly into challenge, you step closer to the quiet strength of a Stoic mind. 9. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Let me ask you a question most people avoid. Do you really know yourself? Or just the version you're comfortable with? We spend so much of our lives trying to be seen, understood, validated by others. But the real work, the deep, transformative work, begins when we're willing to turn inward and take a long, unfiltered look at who we truly are. The Stoics had a word for this practice: self-examination. Not to judge yourself, not to shame yourself, but to see clearly, to remove the fog of denial, distraction, and delusion, and meet yourself fully and honestly. Because here's the truth. Self-deception is a silent destroyer. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you that your bad habits aren't that bad, that your outbursts were justified, that the way you avoid, procrastinate, or numb is normal. But deep down, a part of you knows when you're not living in alignment. A part of you feels the weight of pretending. And that quiet dissonance, it builds until one day you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. That's why the Stoics made honesty, not just with others, but with themselves, a daily discipline. They believe that courage begins with truth, and truth begins with radical self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, didn't use his journal to boast or record victories. He used it to reflect on his weaknesses, his ego, his temper, his fears, because he knew that if he couldn't be honest with himself, no power or empire would ever give him peace. So let me offer you something practical. Start small. Take 5 minutes at the end of your day. Sit quietly and ask yourself, where did I act from ego today? Where did I avoid responsibility? What truth did I ignore because it was uncomfortable? And don't run from the answers. Write them down, not for anyone else to see, just you. Let the page be a mirror. Let the pen be your compass. Over time, this practice creates something rare in this world: inner integrity. You begin to trust yourself more, not because you're perfect, but because you're honest. And with that honesty comes clarity. Clarity about what to let go of. Clarity about what to change. Clarity about who you are when no one's watching. You see, the world may reward charisma, but your soul, it only responds to truth. So if you want real strength, real peace, real freedom, start with this one simple habit. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself, because no matter how far you go in life, if you're lying to the person in the mirror, you're not free. But if you can meet yourself fully, flaws and all, without flinching, you've already won something most people never even reach for: a life built on truth. 10th, let go of the outcome. Let me ask you something personal. How often do you attach your peace to a result? You study hard, but only feel worthy if you pass. You give love, but feel crushed if it's not returned. You build, strive, give your all, and then you wait on outcomes you can't control. And that's where suffering begins. Because the moment you tie your self-worth to the result, you hand over your peace to something outside of you. And here's the truth. The Stoics never told us not to care. They simply warned us not to cling. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do your job, then let it go." That's it. Do what's right, give your best, show up fully, and then release the rest. That might sound counterintuitive in today's world. We're told to hustle hard, obsess over goals, measure everything. But Stoicism invites us to flip the script. Detach from the outcome, not because it doesn't matter, but because your peace matters more. When you act with intention, not desperation, when you plant seeds without gripping the harvest, you become emotionally invincible. You stop riding the highs and lows of success or failure. You stop measuring your worth by numbers, applause, or recognition. Instead, you become anchored in effort, in process, in principle. Think about a wise archer. He trains his body, steadies his aim, sharpens his discipline. But once he releases the arrow, the wind, the weather, the target, they're no longer his to control. His job is done. That's Stoic detachment. It's not apathy, it's maturity. Because let's be honest, how many times have you done everything right and still didn't get what you hoped for? Life is unpredictable. People are complex. Outcomes are messy. But what's always within your reach? Your action, your attitude, your alignment with your values. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And most of that suffering comes from clinging to how things should go. But what if instead of asking, what will I get out of this? You asked, who am I becoming through this? That shift right there is where peace lives. So next time you show up, whether it's a job interview, a relationship, a goal you care deeply about, ask yourself, did I show up with integrity? Did I act from truth, not ego? Did I give my best without needing control? If the answer is yes, then you've already won, because the reward is not in the result. It's in the calm you carry when you know you've done your part, and you're no longer chained to the rest, so let go. Let go of the outcome, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because that's how you reclaim your energy, your freedom, your quiet power. 11. Serve a cause bigger than yourself. There's something powerful that happens the moment you stop asking, what do I get? And start asking, what do I give? In a world obsessed with self-branding, personal success, and individual achievement, it's easy to forget that real fulfillment doesn't come from chasing applause. It comes from serving something greater than your ego. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus, once a slave who became a great teacher, said, remember, you are an actor in a play which the playwright has assigned to you. It is your duty to play your role well, whatever it may be. That means your life isn't just about you. It's about how you show up in the grand story of humanity. Maybe your role is to lead. Maybe it's to nurture, to heal, to teach, to build, to protect, or simply to live with integrity so others feel safe in your presence. But no matter what your path looks like on the outside, the Stoic call is always the same. Align your life with a purpose beyond yourself. Why does that matter? Because ego is fragile. It constantly needs validation. It gets offended easily, compares endlessly, and quits when things don't go as planned. But purpose endures. It gives your actions direction, even in chaos. It pulls you forward when motivation fails. It reminds you that your struggle has meaning, not just for you, but for something or someone else. When you serve a cause bigger than yourself, your setbacks become sacred. Your pain becomes fuel. Your sacrifices feel worthwhile. Think about the people who inspire you most. Are they the ones who took the most, or the ones who gave the most, even when no one was watching? History doesn't remember the loudest egos. It remembers the quiet souls who lit a path for others to walk. And the truth is, you don't need to be famous or flawless to live that way. You just need to ask every day, how can I use my time, my voice, my work, my life for something that outlives me? This doesn't mean you ignore your needs. It means you rise above them. It means you stop building your identity around status and start anchoring it in service, in virtue, in values that won't fade when the applause does. The Stoics didn't just think about how to live, they thought about why to live. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he still reminded himself daily, what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Your individual growth means little if it doesn't contribute to the greater good. So pause for a moment and reflect. What cause calls to you quietly? What would you keep doing even if no one noticed or praised you? That's the voice of something deeper than ego. That's the compass you can trust. Serve it, and you'll find yourself standing in the center of your own strength, not for show, but for purpose. Because when you serve something bigger than yourself, you become bigger than your fears, your doubts, and your limits. 12. Return to stillness. Every day, let me ask you something that's easy to overlook in the noise of daily life. When was the last time you sat in silence? not to scroll, not to escape, but just to be. In the Stoic tradition, stillness isn't a luxury. It's not a retreat from life. It is life's anchor. Every day we're pulled in 1,000 directions, notifications, responsibilities, opinions, ambitions. And the more connected we are outwardly, the more disconnected we often become inwardly. But here's the truth. Without stillness, we drift. We forget who we are, what matters, and what we're aiming for. Stillness is not emptiness. It's not passivity. It's a space where clarity is born, where recovery begins, and where inner power takes root. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher at heart, wrote in his private journal nearly every night, not to perform, but to return, to silence, to truth. That's where his strength came from, not from speeches, but from reflection. And it's no different for you and me. You don't need hours of meditation in a cave to find stillness. You just need a moment, a conscious pause, a walk without your phone, a few deep breaths before answering a heated email, a quiet sit before bed, where you ask yourself, did I live aligned with what matters today? The world will keep rushing. It won't slow down for you. So you have to choose to slow down for yourself. Stillness is where you notice the patterns that are shaping your life. It's where you get to ask, is this how I want to spend my energy, my time, my attention? It's also where healing happens. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle and output, but it's in rest, in silence, that your nervous system resets, your thoughts settle, and your creativity returns. And if you want to lead, to grow, to endure, you need that reset every single day. So what might your stillness practice look like? For some, it's journaling, getting the chaos in your mind onto the page so you can see clearly again. For others, it's a quiet walk in nature, or a few minutes of deep breathing in the morning sunlight. Whatever form it takes, the key is this: make it daily, not just when you're overwhelmed, but when you're doing well, because that's when clarity builds momentum. Remember, stillness is not an escape. It's where you return to your center. It's where your thoughts meet your values, and your actions start aligning with your deeper truth. The world doesn't need a louder you. It needs a clearer you. And that clarity is only born in stillness. So give yourself that gift every day. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. Because in the quiet, you'll hear what truly matters. And from that place, you'll begin to live, not just react. The quiet strength that endures. So here we are, 12 Stoic principles, each one a quiet revolution. Not flashy, not loud, but strong, unshakable. These are the kind of habits that don't just change your mood. They change your direction, your inner compass, your life. You've made it this far, and that already says something about you. You're not just seeking motivation. You're building something deeper, silent inner power. And that kind of strength, it doesn't scream. It doesn't need attention. It shows itself in the calm after chaos, in your ability to keep going when no one's watching. Remember, you don't need to master all 12 at once. Pick one, live it. Let it shape how you see the world. Then come back, add another, and another. With time, you won't just think differently, you'll live differently. In a chaotic world, your calm is your message. Your restraint is your rebellion. Your stillness is your strength. If these ideas resonate with you, consider subscribing for more weekly Stoic wisdom. Your journey to silent strength starts with a single principle, lived, not just learned. Until next time, stay intentional, stay grounded, and keep walking your path. This isn't just philosophy, it's your foundation.